Our first speaker has been a Toastmaster for 2.5 years. She is working on her Level 4 project of the Innovative Planning Path. Today, over the next 5 to 7 minutes, she is going to share the second of 2 speeches, how to form a nonprofit organization. Her disclaimer is, the information given in this presentation is for entertainment only and should not be considered legal advice. Toastmasters, please welcome Toastmaster Rosabel Young.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Well, I received so many requests for information on how to set up a tax-exempt organization or a nonprofit, which is different from a foundation. Now, I will talk mainly about the nonprofit, and if any of you out there are affiliated with foundations, that would also be helpful. Again, I have to credit my mother, who worked for the Epilepsy Foundation in Chicago for 12 years. And sometimes I tagged along and I helped her, even after I was already a medical student and a doctor. And so she was teaching me a lot of things about the medical field, other than just how to do surgery and look at patients and the direct treatment issues, because the business side is always important as well. Then I came to California because she was in Chicago. Some things were different, but the federal government is still the first step. I'm going to share my screen because a lot of this has to do with forms, and people wanted to know about the forms that are required for filing tax exemption. The first step is actually, well, this is the first form you get, which is your tax exempt certificate. But the first step to get this is applying for the SS4. So if maybe I have to reshare the screen to make sure we get the right form. This SS4 is an application for a tax ID number, which you fill out after you think of a name. There is actually another step before that, which is when you think of a name, you have to make sure that it's unique. You can't have a name that like ABC Incorporated, because chances are somebody already found that name and picked it, or AAA, for example. The best thing to do is use your own name or something personal that you thought up, maybe your favorite cartoon when you were a kid, or your cat or dog's name. It can be anything. Then you run it through. If you apply and it's used, the IRS will deny your application, which is no big deal. You just think of another name. However, you can also do what's called a Thompson search and look it up now online for free to see if the name you've chosen is taken. And there are many similar names. For California, the easiest way is to go to the Secretary of State website and look it up. And if it says no such entity exists, then you know you can use that name. After you fill out this form, then you'll get this certificate. I don't remember how much time it was, but it wasn't that long. I would say maybe less than a month later. The IRS searches again that the name isn't used, that the person affiliated individually behind this organization doesn't have a criminal record or any kind of tax debt. If you do have an individual tax debt, I think they make you pay that before you can form. At least if you're one of the officers and directors, you would have to pay that before you form it. In my case, the 3 directors were my mom, my husband, and myself. So we didn't have much going before that could have required any tax payment. Once you have this employer identification number, then you go to the state, and the state forms change every year. So if I were to show you my state form, it would not make sense at all. But to do the state form, you file your articles of incorporation, which is here. And so let me make sure we got this. And you fill it out online. The articles for a 501c3 is a nonprofit. If it's a foundation, it's a whole different process. Basically, the difference is that the nonprofit the nuts and bolts, the basics. The nonprofit does charity work. You receive donations, and those donations are used to do something for the public. Either you run a clinic, or you provide them with clothing, or you do a house cleaning service for them for free, or maybe even a pest control service, but don't charge them to improve their sanitary conditions. And then you have to show evidence that you've done that. So you have pictures or testimonials or certificates of inspection following your work, if it's some kind of yard work or sanitation issue. And that will be enough to substantiate your nonprofit status. The other way, the foundation, basically, it seems like it's just money to money. It's basically organizations exchanging money among themselves. And it didn't seem too appealing to me because I'm a hands-on person and I want to do things. Once you file each year with the state, you have to do what's called a statement of information. And your accountant will just call it an SIS that you file with the SOS, the Secretary of State. And again, you can do this online. I think there's a fee, I don't know, 50, 100. The initial fee is now $800, the registration. The filing fee, I think, is just 50. It used to be 25. And then with the state, the optional forms are a reseller's permit. Like, let's say that you collect recycled items, and some of them may be usable and resold, like maybe a thrift store type thing. Then you have to have this reseller's permit from the State Board of Equalization, the BOE, for California. And each state has a different name. If you want to call your maybe your thrift store, Mrs. Jones Thrift Store, then you need what's called a fictitious business name, or an FBN, which is also called an ABN in some other states, but an FBN, fictitious business or alternate business name, is an easy application, again, that you do online. And then when they approve it, they send you this certificate. And you have to remember to renew this every 5 years. And the rules change. It used to be 10 years, then it takes to 5 years. And again, there's a small fee, like $50 or $100 every time you renew it. And basically, the paperwork is the beginning step, but after that, you get used to it. The most important thing, I think, is thanking your donors. And I do have a letter of gratitude to the donors that I have sent to various people, including various Toastmasters. So let's see, like a certificate of acknowledgement. If I have, I don't think I have it handy. I might have it on a different computer. But a certificate of acknowledgement should include your tax ID number and here it is, for example. And it should be accompanied by a letter with your tax ID number and the amount of the donation and the name of the person. And they give it to their accountant to get credit. Okay, thank you very much. Back to you, Madam.